Welcome to Military Money. This is episode 2, and it's called Understanding Your Military Pay Structure. Sometimes pay in the military can be hard to understand, so I'm going to break that down for you. Before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe, you silly goose, and get engaged in the comments and let me know what you want to see on this channel moving forward. The military paycheck can be confusing sometimes, but honestly, it's a fairly simple piece of your military money pie. One of the most effective ways to use your military money is to first fully understand your military money. It took me some time as a young private years ago to really understand what money was coming in and what money went out. And honestly, it was probably just a bunch of food. And what was actually getting taxed. Let's talk about some of the most common scenarios that you'll see on your LES or leave an earning statement. But I have a whole separate video dedicated to just understanding and reading your LES. The first item is your base pay. That's typically going to be your largest chunk of pay that you will see on your LES. And it will always be based on two things and two things alone. One, your rank, and two, the amount of time that you've spent in the service. Those are the only two factors for this type of pay. For our example today, I'm just going to be using my own information to help everyone understand, and all these numbers can be found on various websites that show the different military pay scales, as well as the entitlements and special pays and all that stuff that I'm going to get into. Your numbers might be a little different than mine because you might not be an E7 in the Army with 12 years of active Army service, such as myself. My base pay is $5,387.10 a month. So every single month I get half of that on the 15th and then the half of that on the end of month pay is what it says on your LES. So the 30th, the 31st, and sometimes the 1st of the month. And another common military pay is your BAH, or your basic allowance for housing. That's what you use to pay your rent, pay your mortgage, or wherever you live. And not every service member will receive BAH, but we're going to get into that. In most scenarios, this will not cover your full rent or your full mortgage and other home costs in your area. This is meant to cover most of your home's cost. It basically offsets your cost of living, so it makes it easier to live where you're going to live. This is going to be based on three things: your rank, your location, and whether or not you have dependents. The amount of time you have spent in the military plays no factor in how much you will get for BAH. For 2025, my BAH with dependents, because I have a wife and 4 children, is $1,953 a month for this location, which is Killeen, Texas. Oh, geez. So if you're keeping track at home on a calculator, your fingers, or you're writing this down or whatever, so far my monthly pay is $7,340.10 a month. Additionally, none of the BAH is taxable for anybody. They don't tax that stuff, and you will not claim that on your taxes at the beginning of the next tax season the following year. The very last common paid item in your military paycheck will be your BAS, or basic allowance for subsistence. That's what we use in the military to pay for our food, our groceries, and stuff like that. Now, typically, if you're single and living in the barracks, you will not see this item as an entitlement on your LES. Well, you'll see it as an entitlement, but then you'll see it as a deduction as well because you will eat in the DFAC. And basically, the military is recouping that money so you can eat at the DFAC. And again, I'll be covering all that and much more in later videos when I break down the LES and help you better understand, what all that stuff is for. So BAS will be determined by one of three things: whether or not you're enlisted, whether or not you're an officer, or entitled to BAS Type 2. Which is for service members in government quarters without adequate food storage or preparation facilities, such as a kitchen, dinette, stuff like that. For 2025, BAS is $320.78 for officers, $465.77 for enlisted members, and $931.54 a month for BAS Type 2. I'm an E7, which means I'm enlisted, as indicated by the E in my pay grade, which means my BAS is $465.77 per month. Last year it was like $460 flat, so it did go up a little bit. I know grocery prices probably skyrocketed, but whatever. BAS is also untaxed, which is a huge benefit to us. So now with those three common paid items all added up, my regular salary before taxes is $7,805.87 a month. Enhance. And all that comes out to a grand total of $93,670.44 annually. And out of those three items, only my base pay is taxable. My BAH, which is the basic allowance for housing, and the BAS, the basic allowance for subsistence, the food pay and all that stuff, those are not taxed. Now, what about special pay? Yes, there's special pay because we're all special people. There's a ton of special pays that could apply to you. There's diving duty pay that could range from $110 to $340 extra per month. Aviation career incentive pay from $125 to an extra $1,000 a month. Hardship duty pay at $50 extra a month to $1,500 extra dollars a month that you might get while you're deployed or downrange. Hazardous duty pay that you might also get downrange. Hostile fire or imminent danger pay. Special pay for dental officers. Special pay for medical officers. Jump pay. I can go on and on and on. But typically, a member of the military will see those three types of pays that I mentioned earlier and maybe a couple extra pays, depending on what you're doing and where you go. And again, stay tuned and subscribe for when we go over other types of pay, allotments, deductions, breakdowns of the actual MOSs and the LESs, all that stuff. We're going to dive into it. If this was at all beneficial to you in any way, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell and follow me, Silly Goose.